90% of your battle with trauma is not what happened during the event, but what happens afterwards. The longer you wait to take evasive action, the more likely it is that your trauma will change you into someone else. This is what happened after I was sexually assaulted. Let's get into the story. So, after I got home that night, I was extremely upset. Um, Immediately took my outfit off, but I wasn't concerned long term. In my mind, I was just like, you know what? What do I always do when I'm upset over something? I journal. So let me just get all this out on the pages, no matter how long it takes, every detail, and write about it over and over and over and over again over the weekend. And I was convinced that by Monday, everything would be back to normal. So that night, wrote everything down in my journal. Wrote about it again during the weekend. And on Monday, you can guess I was not feeling better. In fact, I can't remember my exact cadence going back to school, but I was horrified. So I was in this technology class, and there was this guy in there who I sat next to, and we kind of liked each other. Now looking back, I'm like, no, he didn't like me. But I had probably started to like him because I liked every guy who gave me a little bit of attention. So, in my head, I'm not gonna try and like diss myself too much, because at the end of the day, I was 15 and then pretty sheltered on top of it. So I'm gonna try not to make insulting comments in regards to any choices that I made. But this was not an intelligent decision. To tell him, even though, I trusted him, this wasn't really an intelligent decision. So I tell him, and I guess I wasn't in a good mood. So he had asked me what was wrong, what was going on. So I decided to tell him what happened at the game. And then he kind of like laughed, smirked, and he was like, oh, like this? And then he proceeds to put his fingers in between my pants right there in class and, finger me over my uniform pants in front of class. I mean, in the middle of class. Now, what happened afterwards is kind of blocked out, but just so you can imagine, if I'm sitting right here, he's right here, the teacher's desk was like right there directly. So, of course, that teacher was a man. He didn't do nothing. He didn't say anything or anything, but this is how fast things start to escalate. Once you become one person's target, now all the predators, all the people who could possibly take advantage of you, suddenly have their eyes just on you. So, yeah, I don't even know. That happened to, I guess it made me feel hopeless, defeated, like, okay, this is something that happens to me, I guess, for some reason, even though I knew, obviously, from everyone's reactions, I knew it wasn't right, but I'm just like, okay, so I guess this is something that just happens to me because something's wrong with me. So, I started to take the long way to class to avoid groups of boys because I was in some kind of like advanced program where the high school had trailers out in the back, two trailers for certain students in their classrooms. So, it was outside, obviously, so I had to go. I was going a certain way to take the path outside, but boys would gather on that path, and obviously, seeing a group of boys walking past a group of boys, being looked at by a group of boys, like just the whole concept of a group of boys just threw me after the assault. So, um, I would go the late way to class every day. It was just the stupidest way I would go to class. And even just in the hallways, like if I saw a group of boys, I would like, I'm going the other way. So obviously, I start being a little bit late to class. Not every time, but more than usual. So then, even outside of school, um, when I would go with my parents on trips to the grocery store, and I don't want to say, I don't want to say my parents contributed to how bad this got for me mentally, but just doing things that you should never do to your child, regardless. But then they're doing it, and then this stuff is going on in the background. So, when they would like kind of just ditch me in the grocery store, I would start going into like a panic, and grown men at the grocery store were now starting to bother me. Like, I was hyper aware of every man in the grocery store. So, that's not really a good combination. Then I started insisting that all my doctors need to be female, and I was not going to go to a male doctor. Now, I believe this is around the time that like the gynecologist, the idea of going to the gynecologist first, like popped up for me. And apparently, my mom didn't think nothing red flag-ish of that statement. Like, I feel like that's not really normally something your teenage daughter requests. It's something you as a mom just kind of know, like, of course I'm not going to take my teenage daughter to a grown man to inspect her privates. Yeah, but it was not just the gynecologist. I'm talking all doctors, every doctor, the primary doctors, everybody. So, right after the assault, I also kind of not necessarily needed somebody to blame, but my brain went straight to, okay, who was the one who bailed on me that night? My best friend. So then when I tell you I cut my best friend off, like out of nowhere after that, because I associated her canceling on me with kind of like not being there to protect me. So, yeah, I cut her off. And silent treatment, I am like the silent treatment queen. It does not matter if we were seeing each other every day, sitting next to each other. She was getting ignored like crazy, like she didn't exist. And so this brought out a different side of my best friend I had never seen till then. Like, we had known each other since fourth grade at that point. I've been friends since fourth grade. So now we're in freshman year of high school. Now something destructive has happened to me, and now it's just bringing out the absolute most childish, immature, unnecessary side of her that I had yet to see of her. That was not helping. Um, and I think obviously I still have to tell the story about like what happened between me and her besides this situation. This was the catalyst. This was like the dominoes that led to us. I cut her off because I couldn't do it no more, but yeah. Um, just kind of imagine like the dichotomy between, okay, I'm kind of like panicked constantly. Anxiety is on 10,000. Like, and then you have your best friend poking at you in class, tripping you in the hallway to try to get your attention, stuff like this. So then I began to have obsessive thoughts and even fantasies about being raped. I might make a whole separate video on how this situation ended up leading to me getting into BDSM um, in my college age type years, and why y'all, fantasies is one thing, but BDSM is a whole nother thing. And I'm of the crowd who says that if you're into BDSM, you're acting out traumas. You're, yeah. But that's just because of my experience. Some people who get into BDSM don't necessarily have traumas, but I feel like the people who are real deep into it are trying to do this, where it was like your brain is trying to comprehend what happened because it stopped very suddenly. It didn't go to the extreme. So now your brain is trying to finish the loop. That's what your brain does. So that's how I started to become fixated on the fear of being raped. So, yes, talked about the panic when my parents would just disappear in whatever store we were in. They would just like disappear. And that's a whole nother issue. But I do remember speaking to multiple counselors about this because I started to have a lot of issues. Like, physically. After this is when my GI issues just skyrocketed, y'all. Like, and I tell you, it was to the point where it did not matter what I ate, my stomach would be turning. Like, and I mean like just stabbing pains. Like, I remember one night we had Popeyes, y'all. In the middle of the night, I'm up like on the toilet, sweating like I have food poisoning just from the fried food. So I started to think I had IBS. It was that severe. And this was obviously very anxiety induced gastrointestinal problems. So then I was starting to leave the class a lot to go to the bathroom because I was like, it was just like, I don't want to say I was suddenly incontinent, but diarrhea was just, oh my goodness, it was horrifying. Um, yeah. So I was starting to leave class a lot to go to the bathroom multiple times a day. And then I'm going to the guidance counselor because it's so bad and I just want to like sit in there, and I guess the anxiety was killing me too, so I was just like, I need to get away from people. And I know for a fact one of my classmates' moms was the school nurse. So eventually she was like, you cannot keep coming in your missing class. And I don't know what I said to her, but yeah, there was several occasions where it got so bad I had to call my mom to pick me up. It was, y'all. And so yeah, while I was in the guidance counselor, basically constantly, of course, I ended up talking to multiple different guidance counselors about what had happened to me and all this stuff. I don't remember what came of that because he was in a different school. He was in my school district, yet he was still at the middle school. I'm at the high school, so it's kind of just like, and then it happened at a football game, so it's like they didn't really have the jurisdiction, I guess, to, you know, get him in trouble for that, or the other boys, because they were also in middle school. So um yeah, so come December, I believe. Now imagine this. You're going through all this, right? And your best friend's mom and your mom decide that you are just the most unreasonable girl on the face of planet Earth, and you're just that petty that you would just cut off your best friend of, do the math, how many ever years by that point, over a weekend. So then my mom starts bothering me about, why am I not talking to my best friend? I'm not answering her phone calls. Like, her mom's calling saying that she's super upset and like, what's going on? She doesn't know what's going on. Like, you just stop talking to her. Meanwhile, my mom never asked me, did she do something to you? Did something happen to you? What's going on? No. It just became some kind of joke, like I'm just unreasonable and I need to make up with her and stop being ridiculous. So then I'm dealing with that, right? So a couple months of that goes by. No, it couldn't have been December. It had to have been, maybe it was. I'm thinking of the situation when we finally talked and it was bright outside, but it could have still been cold. So yeah, I finally you know, it got to me. And I'm like, hmm, I am kind of being unreasonable, right? I didn't explain to her anything that happened. I didn't try to let her know when I'm going through, I just cut her off. That's kind of wrong. Okay, I get that. So, eventually, I just remember this so plainly. I was waiting for my mom to come and pick me up, and I was sitting on, there was this like concrete bench that extended all the way around like the outside of the high school in this one particular section. And she had come out, maybe she was doing something after school to the point where while she was there. But I don't know how the conversation started finally. But yeah, I was just kind of like, something happened to me at that football game, something really bad. And she was like, what happened? I explained the situation, who it was, you know, what happened, how it escalated, how it ended. And she's like, y'all. And this girl tried to gaslight me. Months later, like I forgot her reaction, like I could ever forget this reaction. So she laughed, y'all. Yeah, I'm talking about laughed, for real. Smile on her face, laughed after I told her this. The same sequence of events that you just heard in the last video, right? She laughed and she said, that's it. She laughed some more and she said, what does that have to do with me and why you're not talking to me? And my dumb ass probably said something like, I don't know. And then somehow we start talking again, being friends again. So no, unfortunately, that was not the end of our friendship. So, yeah. Now, when I was 17, and now it's junior year, y'all. Junior year. And it's second semester junior year. So now it's been 2 years after the assault. I have my first depressive episode, full on. And I had cut all my friends off. My best friend, finally, because that was just deserved. That was ridiculous. And another best friend that I'd had since like 3rd or 4th grade, stopped talking to her because I just started seeing how I was being treated by my friends too. So, yeah, at that point, I'm the quintessential loner kid hiding in the bathroom at lunch because it was awful. It was really sick, to be honest, thinking about that. But, obviously I have been poking at my mom, like something's going on, something's not right here, like yeah, I need a therapist. And later on when I found the reason for this, I found this so selfish and a self-fulfilling prophecy. But she would just continue telling me nothing's wrong with me. She's not gonna take me. And she's not gonna help me find one. So now I'm in junior year, like I said. I'm dealing with 2 teachers. It was a dual classroom setup. It was about 60 kids with 2 teachers in the one trailer. And so these teachers had seen me throughout all these 3 years. They have been my teachers for 3 years at that point. So now they're seeing that the girls I used to spend all my time with, I'm not talking to anymore. They know my personality. They know I'm goofy. They know I'm loud. They know I like to talk. I'm in class silent now. I'm completely quiet, just isolating, and my grades are slipping, and they know me to have A's and B's all the time. So, of course, eventually I get called up to the younger of the teachers, because I was on her side of the classroom at that time. I don't want to get emotional, y'all, but it does make me upset. Because this woman only seen me maybe like 2 hours a day. But she called me up to her desk this one day, and she was just like, what is going on? Like, you are so different. Like, I've known you for like 3 years now. You're not the type to let your grades slip. You're not talking to anybody. You're not the type to just not talk. Like, what is going on? And so then, I'm silently breaking down, and I just remember like it was yesterday, y'all. She reached in her desk, pulled out a sticky note, and she wrote me a note to the school psychiatrist and told me to go ahead right then. So yeah, that's when I started seeing that woman. I think it was like once a week. I didn't even know she worked in the school before that moment. Her office, and I understand the reason, her office was underneath a staircase, one of the staircases in the hallway straight down from the cafeteria. And yeah, it was this little tiny office. I don't remember how many times I went and talked to her or nothing, but yeah. I just remember that I was seeing her into my senior year. So and then eventually at some point my mom finally took me to therapy. We found a therapist down the street. Not down the street. It was a bit, 10, 12, 15 minutes. But it was a familiar plaza because it was kind of like across the plaza from where my dentist had been at one point. So I go there, I tell the therapist like what's going on with me. And I get the worst diagnosis you could ever imagine getting at 17 over something you thought you was going to get over in a weekend. PTSD, yeah. So she diagnosed me with PTSD. And then I get in the car after that session, I tell my mom, and she's kind of like doubting it. Doesn't ask what happened. Whoa. What could have happened to my daughter for her to get PTSD? No, just full out denial. So I had 2 sessions with that therapist, and on the end of the second session, she just abruptly tells me, Yeah, I'm leaving the practice, so you'll have to find another doctor. Okay, what do you think I did? Of course, I didn't find another doctor. I was just like, at this point, I don't know, y'all. At that point, it was kind of like, I was real tired. Real tired. Real defeated. So, senior year comes. I see that school psychiatrist for a couple more weeks, maybe, and then I guess she kind of determined I was doing better or whatever. Um, and then my senior year is when I met my first real boyfriend. When I say real, I mean, oh, we went on dates. He met my mom. I met his mom. Type of real boyfriend. Um, and this real boyfriend was the exact opposite of what a girl needs that she's dealing with. Now, full on untreated PTSD. Um, yeah, a lot of sexual pressure, sexual assault in public. Again, but now it's not in the context of a boy that I was with. Now it's in the context of a boy that I am with. So eventually I get tired of pushing him off me, trying not to make a scene, saying no. And then it spirals into some very disgusting, manipulative, confidence crushing situations. So it was a great distraction from all the crazy stuff I had going on. But at the end of that, he breaks up with me. And this is why I'm going to talk about this too, but be careful what you say to a therapist in regards to the context you give for a situation. Because trauma will have you forgetting whole chunks of your life. So if you go into a therapist and you say something along the lines of, this particular set of symptoms started when I turned 18. These are professionals, they use a book, and there are certain mental illnesses that present at certain ages. There are certain symptoms that if you have them prior to a certain age, you cannot get diagnosed with certain things. So just be mindful of that. If you need to let your doctor get to know you and the full circumstances of a situation before they try and diagnose you. So anyway, my first boyfriend breaks up with me, ditches me, and so I have my first psychotic episode at 18. Psychotic, paranoid. Y'all, I just remember, so I blew him up all night, right? all night. I'm talking hundreds of phone calls from multiple different phone numbers and the house phone all night. Was writing emails. Stayed up all night again, and it had to have been all into the next day. To the point where his mom contacted me and told me to leave him alone. And then, after being up for so long, I look in the mirror and I literally don't recognize my face. Like, this was the scariest shit I've ever experienced in my life. I looked in that mirror and it was like, it was horrible. It was horrifying. It was like it was a full on stranger. And then I remember I was pacing back and forth because I was so paranoid that his mom was going to call the police on me or she was going to come up. So I'm pacing back and forth and I'm looking out the window constantly because I'm looking for a police car to pull up or her car to pull up. And it was crazy. It was crazy. And unfortunately, that was the beginning of a terrible cycle where it was depressive episode, paranoid rage episodes for years. So at that point, you're kind of not dealing with PTSD anymore. You're dealing with like breaking from reality. So, all this to say, the battle is not what happened to you. The battle is what happened afterwards. Who was there for you? Who wasn't there for you? How much BS was piled on top of your nervous system that's already going crazy? When this stuff gets severe enough, it will start to hit you physically. You will be physically ill. Your life is going to fall apart depending on what stage of life you're at. If you get physically ill like that, it's very hard to recover from. And PTSD is one of those things where when it goes untreated, it can become psychotic very fast. And then eventually you'll kind of be so confused, you'll end up being diagnosed with let me just be real. If you let trauma go too long, you will end up getting diagnosed with BPD, and that will be a stain on you. It will be a stain on you, your credibility, your confidence, your self-esteem. Do not get diagnosed with BPD if you do not need to. Okay. So I will probably make a video about how to get the help you need at a therapist without misleading them. Because your brain, your memories is going to get confused, especially if some years have gone by and you have more traumatic incidents stacked on top. You are going to like segment your life. You're going to get nervous at the doctor and you're going to tell them whatever you remember on the spot. And you're going to gaslight yourself. Even if you have a full list, you're going to gaslight yourself in front of the doctor, and you're going to cherry pick what you want to tell them. Then from that information, they're going to make a conclusion and a treatment plan that's not right for you, which will lead you astray. And when it comes to something like BPD, which is notoriously difficult to treat, you don't want to get diagnosed with that, y'all, because you will feel, you will give up. So I want everybody to be extremely careful. We can't always control what happens to us. We can take every precaution on this planet. This is a precautionary tale. When it comes to things like trauma from a burglary, random assault, natural disasters, house fires, when it comes to stuff like that, they're not preventable. What happens the most is what you do after that, and the help and support that you get after that. So thank you for watching this video. Please be careful and keep your eyes peeled for someone whose personality just drastically changes. Something has gone on, and something has been going on with them for a long time. So I just want all of you guys to stay safe, and just do not make your life harder than it needs to be. Do not. Do not get caught in cycles like this that will take years off of your life. It is not worth it. Stay tuned for my next video. I'm going to be talking about more mental health topics, telling the story about my best friend and all the other insane things she did. Like, she was really just a plain bully, honestly. But yeah, stay safe.